Hello, hello, hello. This is Crystal, but you can call me Sherpa, and I am very glad that you are here. So, what are we talking about today? Today, we're going to talk about the question of I can't remember what I called it. Should black men date, marry, be in a relationship with white women? And the reason I'm talking about this is because I was on Facebook, and there was a post where there were two gentlemen. It was one of those divided posts where on one side there were two gentlemen who were talking about, one gentleman was dating white women, and the other gentleman was from, I don't know, like Nation of Islam or something, right? And then the split screen was this woman who was taking notes and had an opinion, was ready for an opinion. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I was just like, I can only take like 10 minutes of it. But she was there and she had a little notebook and she was writing down stuff, you know what I'm saying? Getting her counterpoint, shaking her head and all that kind of stuff, right? And then I was like, I just felt like I was sitting there thinking to myself, are we still talking about this? I thought we were okay. I mean, I thought things were, had kind of, normalized. People were like, oh, okay, people are people. If you love somebody, you should be with them. In my little world, I was like, okay, that's where we're at. And then I started thinking about how in this time in particular, it feels like there's just a move to stir the pot on any topic that could potentially cause mess. And mess is not necessarily a bad thing. Mess causes you to challenge yourself, to think about why you think a certain way about things. So it's not always a bad thing to have the pot stirred up. But the pot was a little stirred. And so I thought, man, you know what? Let me just share a little bit on my opinion on 3 things people might want to consider when they're thinking about this topic, because I think that it's, I don't want to minimize it, but, let me just get into the content. So what I'm going to share today are 3 perspectives or ideas or ways you may think about the topic of someone being, in this case, particularly abrasive is the idea, the concept of a black man being with a white woman or a woman of another race, or let's just simplify and say non-black females. Now, the first thing I wanted to share, the first thing you might want to consider is there is such a much bigger picture at play. It's a huge picture at play, because at the end of the day, everybody is drawn, or most people are drawn. Let me talk about myself. I am drawn to people who meet a need or whatever that exists for me. And our views and opinions about what makes one person attractive versus another person to be attractive, it's all based on belief. So whether the belief is that, oh, back in the day, I couldn't even look at you or I would get killed, or the belief is, man, I just like that shade of person. It's the same. Or say, for example, let's just take it out of the realm of race. Let's just talk about anything else. Like say, for example, you say, I don't want to date a fat woman. Okay. Well, why is that? Well, it could be, I just don't like fat women. Or it could be, when I was 3 years old, my auntie Ruru, she was about 300 pounds, and she fell on me and broke my leg. I'd never date a fat woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, the beliefs always make the difference about how we choose the person we're going to be with. And so to pull out a particular segment of society and say, oh, no. You have money now. You can't date that person over there that's that color. You have to come back over here and date this person that's this color. Regardless of what they're doing to support the community and all that kind of stuff, I'm sorry, that just does not flow. I know it's a very abrasive topic. I know there's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of anger and there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes into play when people get angry about the topic. But at the end of the day, the source of all that stuff, it's the same source. It is beliefs that we have been conditioned to have, that we need to deal with and come to some type of peace with. And that's an internal struggle on an individual by individual basis that has nothing to do with race, right? It has nothing to do with it. It's internally what your beliefs are, why you form them, and are you connected with who you are as a source satellite, is what I'll call you. So that's the first thing. The first thing is, you know what? Not to minimize what people feel about it, but it's not the biggest thing, and it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that we understand the big picture, in that we're all divine beings that are living a temporary human experience, and all of these internal things that upset us and frustrate us and make us feel some kind of way are related to those beliefs, and that is what needs to be dealt with, not these outside factors, because those have nothing to do with you. Okay, so that's my first point, thing you might want to think about. My second thing that you want to think about is, it's a little overly righteous. It's a little bit like, why? Let me step back. I know why there's a lot of pain and a lot of hurt and a lot of frustration in that, with a situation where a black man is dating a white woman. I get that. I think black men probably feel the same way when they see a black woman dating a white man or non-black man. But anytime you're kind of sticking your nose into who somebody else is dating and other people's personal affairs, you're out of line. It's all overly righteous, because nobody is 100%. And so at the end of the day, what's important is that you find someone that makes you feel good, and you find someone that makes you happy, and you find someone who respects you, and you can get along together in the life that you're living together. That's what's really important. But what happens, I think, sometimes is that when we don't have that, the thing that we're missing in our lives, we look and we have a lot of expectations about what it should look like in other people's lives, and then we go sticking our nose in other people's lives, when really what we need to do is turn inside and look at who we are as a person, and how we're operating, and how we're responding to things, okay? So it's really kind of overly righteous to just look at somebody and say, oh, you know what? Based on the color of your skin, you should not be talking to that person. You should be talking to me, okay? So it's just a little bit too much, over the top. Everybody needs to just focus more on mind your own business. And then finally, and I'm going to go into more detail on this on my YouTube channel. I'm going to do a part 2 that goes a little deeper dive, because I think there's a really, really strong, deep spiritual issue here that we need to kind of vet. But the third thing is just personal development is key here. Why? Because what you're saying when you say that a black man can't date a white woman for whatever reason. I understand there's black women who say the black men will treat the black woman this way, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, in order to attract a person that is right for you, regardless of what color they are, you have to become a person that person wants to be with. And that requires personal development. It requires that you look inward at you. And a lot of times I personally, nobody wants to look at themselves inside. I didn't want to see the me who I was before. I didn't want to see the me who was opinionated. I didn't want to see the me who was judgmental. I didn't want to see the me who was hitting people over the head with the Bible. I didn't want to see that person. But in order to progress, I had to look at that person and be like, oh, that's not right. Oh, why do you believe that? And question it. Even when those beliefs that I held were beliefs that came to me or that I had been conditioned to, and some beliefs I didn't really know why I believed that. Other beliefs, I was like, oh, I had been conditioned to believe that. And then after further, learning, it didn't make any sense. But at the end of the day, I know that the best way to progress and to be able to love people is to go inward and begin the journey to know and love yourself. And that's the hardest journey. That's why I think people go outward and they look at other people's situations and other people's business and other people's stuff and start digging their nose in it and making a big stink out of it, because it's so much easier to tear somebody else down than it is to go and look inward and work on yourself and become a better person. So I can't remember what my question was for the original video, but the point is that number one thing you might want to think about when you're considering or think about why one person in one race should or should not date someone in another race is you have to keep the bigger picture in play, and that this covering that we are, the skin color we are, whatever it is It's just a vehicle. I mean, being discriminating against somebody because of one skin color versus another skin color is like discriminating against, somebody because they have a Chevy instead of, a Lexus. It's the same concept. But the whole thing is, it's just something that carries the person inside. And the person inside is where the real value is. That's where the real connection is. People don't draw to people because of just how they look. They draw to people because of how that person makes them feel. And so to look at someone's skin color and decide what they should or should not do just based on that, it just really doesn't make any sense in the grand scheme of things. The second thing you might want to consider is that it's overly righteous. It's like, who are you? Who am I to make a decision about what somebody else should do with their life? Everybody's life belongs to them. And for whatever reason, whatever the belief is that caused them to want to be attracted or drawn to one person or another, that's their personal business. No way should we be out here on Facebook talking about, whether somebody should date somebody of one skin color versus another, let alone spending time debating and arguing about it. There's so much bigger things at play in the universe right now. And then thirdly is personal development. And I think that the underlying thing that draws people out into other people's business is when your own business is not where it needs to be. When you're unhappy, when I'm happy, I'm not thinking about nobody else's stuff. I'm not thinking about anybody else's stuff except how can I, enjoy other people's stuff and how great it is. But, there have been times when I have not been happy. It's so much easier to look at somebody else's stuff and criticize them than it ever is to look at me and criticize me, to look at me and improve me. That's hard work. That's heavy lifting right there. Who wants to do that? It's so much easier to talk about you. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share today. Like I said, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on my YouTube channel because this is more, there's a spiritual issue that I think really warrants some deeper diving. Does that make sense? Deeper diving. To help us understand the context that we're operating in. And so that's what I do on my channel. I take topics that nobody else wants to talk about, and I just talk about them and try to shed some light on a different point of view so that we can be free to have conversations about things that we haven't talked about before. Because when we start to talk about different situations and we're open to look at different viewpoints and ways of looking at things, we come up with such better answers than the other way around. So with that, that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope it was helpful for you. If it's helpful, then definitely share this video, and I'll talk to you soon.